Welcome back. Hello.
Yes, in Nigeria and around the world, women are underrepresented in politics, decision-making, and at different levels of government. In the current 8th Assembly in Nigeria, women occupy 7 out of 109 Senate seats and only 22 out of 360 seats in the House of Representatives. Wow. Is that even up to 1%? Well, globally, it has been recognized that exclusivity in political participation is a fundamental aspect of modern democracy. Improved representation of women has been shown to have benefits such as improved policy changes, economic growth, enhanced peace building, and a more egalitarian society. Now, to put meaning to all of this, we have a panel. 2 of them are in Abuja. Esther Uzoma, who is a public affairs analyst. Good morning, Esther. Are you there?
I don't think they're ready yet.
Okay. So we'll just introduce our guests who are with us in Lagos. We have 2 Bioduns with us. We have Biodun Bamidele, who's a human capital development expert. Good morning.
Good morning.
And we have Biodun Shoumi, a social commentator.
Good morning.
Welcome to both of you. As soon as our guests in Abuja is ready, we'll bring them into the conversation. But let's start the conversation from here. Now, let me begin with Mr. Shoumi. What do you think is responsible for the low representation of women in politics, especially?
Well, it's all about how democracy has evolved and the variant of democracy which we have chosen to practice in the country. When you look at the history of democracy itself, it started in Greece. It was never about political parties formation and aggregating ideas and personalities behind political parties. When it evolved later, you had democracy in UK, which also started not with political parties. The political parties ended up being a court of ideas, not of a court of personality. And because of the geographical construction of the British Parliament, they ended up having one party on the other side, one on the other. But in reality, the way it works is about policy making, is about reaching consensus, on national issues. And that also includes representation. So if you move down to the United States, George Washington never thought of a 2-party political system where people are aggregated into parties. Rather, they were thinking about consensus building, how to include everybody in democratic governance. Now, back home, what you see is that the failure of many countries, including Syria, Somalia, Nigeria, and so many other countries, is simply because of this very, very variant of democracy which we've taken on, which is majority takes all. And where you have majority takes all in a male-dominated, business of politics, what you're likely going to see is the social exclusion of other people. It's not only women, disadvantaged people, are also there, including the poor, and the weak, and people who are disabled. So we've not been able to evolve our democracy in a way that would ensure meaningful representation. If we go through our federal quota system, which is meant to ensure inclusivity in governance, it's all about ethnic representation, nothing about gender representation, in it. And a typical example is when government runs into trouble, when political atmosphere is heated up, that is when they talk about government of national unity. That was the case with Somalia, when the U.S. applauded the government of national unity. But nobody takes any step, to redress the problem. If you look at the population of Nigeria today, women are, if they are not more, they're about par, with the men. So how do you explain the underrepresentation of women, in governance? And it all starts from the system of government, the way we select our representatives, the way we've organized political parties. In Nigeria, political parties are not arranged, around ideas or any ideology. It's always about the personality, those who can afford, to fund the political parties. When you go to other climes, the way political parties are funded is not the way it's funded here. No doubt, in terms of wealth distribution, women are highly disadvantaged.
Okay.
So therefore, they are not even in a position to form political parties of their own and fund it because it's a costly
Okay.
enterprise.
Please hold your thoughts. We'll just go on a very quick break. We'll come back to begin from that point, costly enterprise and why women are not funding their own political parties. We'll be back shortly. Please don't go away. Welcome back. We're still talking inclusive governance, and we have in the studio two Biodun Shomi and Biodun Bamidele, both of them talking about how it's come to. Mr. Shomi, when you were talking, you said something about the fact that the way democracy has been practiced so far in Nigeria has made it really difficult for the women to do anything somewhat. Especially in the area of financing, so to speak. Is that the reason why they're unable to fund their
enterprise?
Okay. Let me ask Mr. Bamidele, do you agree with him? The other Biodun?
I cannot agree less. In fact, I would say I agree with him 100% and one.
That's not fair to the viewers. You need to have a varying view.
Because the truth of the matter is, by the time you break down the matter of inclusiveness in Nigeria, you will discover that we are not ready at all to really pull the women along. However, let me quickly clarify that I'm not one of those clamoring for throw it at them because they are women.
Tokenism.
Because when you look at every other sphere of human endeavor, you see women doing extraordinarily well. Captains of industries, leaders of ministries and agencies, and all, and you know, we can go on and on. But when we come to this subject matter of politics, especially in the context of Nigeria, we discover that there are several things that a woman in Nigeria will struggle to contend with. Just the election that ended, a particular, I will not mention it, a particular deputy governorship aspirant was trying to chronicle his experiences in the course of just campaigning. And he said about 3 or 4 times, he was very close to the point of death. Now, that shows the level of violence that goes with our politicking as a people. The question then would be, how many women are wired,
have the liver for that.
The liver to stand that. Now, there are also things we can't be talking about on here, but they are just as real as day and night. They ask you certain questions of, are you sure you can do A, B, C, and D? By the time that stands, face to face with you, no matter how persuaded you had been before that point, you want to think about it that, am I really, truly ready for this? And then let me come to the matter of, finance that he was talking about. That's why I said I agree with him 100%. Now, somebody wants to serve. I'm still trying to understand the rationale. And then the form to just indicate your interest is millions of naira.
Yeah.
That is already a question mark. But there's also something very fundamental that a lot of time when we discuss this matter, we neglect. But neglecting it doesn't remove it because it's still there. And that is our socio-cultural mindset. It is still believed in some quarters, call it religious, call it socio-cultural, call it ethics group and all of that, that ordinarily and permanently, the position of a woman is in the background.
Yes, and how much help did the president's add to all of this when he said that his wife's place is in the other room?
Well, maybe that can give allusion to the point I am trying to make. So there is a web of matters really that is confronting a woman who is really ready to offer service to our people. But let's quickly say this. I want to say that, lastly, even women, of course, given all the other points you have made, they are real. I remember when PDP was having one of their, please permit that I'm mentioning name because of what I'm about to say. They had one of their convention where a woman, I still remember her name and all of that, indicated her interest to be the president of the nation. When that conference ended, she had just a singular vote. If I still get my figures right, either 1 or 2. I think it was 1, which means that she only voted for herself. The question I'm asking myself is, the women, are they also even persuaded that a woman can really do this? Because if they have the population, I was going to really take the position of women are actually more. I stand to be corrected. If
that is a fact. There are more women in Nigeria than there are men.
So if that is the fact, then I should be able to get the people on my side as a woman to say, let's do this together. But it looks to me as though even the women amongst themselves are yet to really put their house in order.
Well,
so,
it's based on that cultural thing that you spoke about. It's not only the men who think that the women should be in the kitchen or in the bedroom.
So the women
Some women also believe that that is their place. Say, what does this one want to go and be president for? Has she finished looking after her children and her husband? She should be in the kitchen.
You know what I was thinking about while I was coming? I said I wasn't going to even go out of Africa. Maybe women who are really ready. Of course, we're not losing sight of all the other matters we have raised. Maybe there will be a need to go to Liberia to go and ask Ellen Sirleaf, how did you do it? Because by the time you begin to mention names, you know, in the Western world, it will be like we're taking it out of our socio-cultural context. But if it has happened within the African context, that suggests to me that it is possible. The question now is, what do we need to start doing now? The first thing really for me is to start from amongst ourselves to let us believe that our position is not just in the kitchen. The truth of the matter is that as of today, we have corporations who have as their chairperson a woman doing tremendously well.
Yes, managing directors who are women.
Doing tremendously well.
Yes.
Heads of government agencies doing tremendously well. If they can do well in all those other areas, I believe they can do the same in governance and even maybe do much better.
Mr. Shomi, that thing about the women putting themselves back based on maybe perception or maybe even jokes, like when what Alera mentioned about the president, yes, it was said in a light-hearted form. He said it light-heartedly. But then some people have taken it beyond the light-heartedness to other levels.
Reality.
Now, the positioning itself, or the posturing, or the perception of the female folk, for instance, is there something that needs to be done to help it? Because sometimes, even when simple example, an invite, and I know some people are wondering, how come we're talking inclusiveness and we don't have we should have more women here? Yes, we do have a female. She's in Abuja. We'll get to Abuja shortly. But an invite was put out to several women. Indeed, they had other engagements. But a lot of times, invites are put out to female guests, and they turn it down. So is it a question of perception? And how can that be helped?
Yeah, I think it's not about perception, actually. I think it's structural. Because if you go down into history, you will know that some of these positions cannot be validated. One, we've had very strong women, you know, who had played major role in the lives of several communities across the geopolitical divide. When you talk about Efusheto Anigura, the Yellow Day of Ibadan, talk about Queen Amina of Zaria, these are women who championed, you know, causes. Fela's mother is Mrs. Fumilayo Anikulapo Ransom Kuti. Madame Tinumbu, you know, very strong, you know, women who played major role in transforming the lives of the people in several areas. We remember the tale about the snake killed by Queen Amina, which the men could not do. So that is not just about it, it's structural because it evolved over time. When you look at our traditional setup, is it true that women consider themselves that their place is in the kitchen? Traditionally, it's not. For instance, in the Southwest here, particularly in the Yoruba area, as you have the male column of officers, you know, in traditional fraternities. So also you have the male, as you have the Oluwo and his officers downwards. So you also have the Yabiye occupying a own throne and the officers downwards. in the traditional chieftaincy area, as you have the king, you have the chiefs, so also you have the queen. You know, the Olori that sits beside the king. In the same way, on the same, they have their seats beside each other. In the same way, you also have the Baloguns and all other officers. You also have the Yalude, Yalaje, and so on and so forth. So in reality, is it really true? It's structural. It's over a period of time. Because of the way we've organized political parties in Nigeria, we have made it in a way that it is a cult of personality, not a cult of ideas or any ideology. So because of that, what we've seen is the aggregation of those who controlled the resources of the country, which they know quite rightly that women are highly marginalized. They are highly disenfranchised when it comes to control of the resources, you know, bringing themselves together and choosing their own cronies. One thing which we can do is, why not look at proportional representation, one, if we genuinely intend to make a difference. Secondly, why not look at quota system? That is 30%, 40% of representatives should be women. There are positive actions which have been done in other climes. For instance, in the United Kingdom, you know, political parties are compelled to present female candidates, whether you like it or not. There's a certain quota, you know, which you must present them, you know, for offices, for consideration. We cannot say we are short of women who are able, who are highly skilled, who are intelligent, who are... Look, they run industries. We have had bank managers. The last two Minister of Finance, you know, were women. You know, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, Kemi Adeosun. So what are we talking about? Iweala came from World Bank. So if we have people who could do that job, why are we marginalizing them?
Okay.
You know, that is the major issue.
Okay. Now, Biodo, can we just look at this scenario?
Yeah.
A political party adopts a woman as their presidential candidate. Do you think, because most of the votes are cast in the rural areas, can you see people in the rural areas voting for this woman to be their president?
That is where I said that, you know, it is really going to be a tall order in the recent. Maybe that will be a long-term project.
Maybe in the next 50 years, 100 years?
It might not be as long, because until people's perceptions and values change, nothing can change. Now, you look at so many things we do on a daily basis. It just boils down to the fact that, you know, while I agree with him 100%, what he has said, 100% correct, but I don't know at what point we had that distortion. And that distortion has gradually become our reality. We have agreed that is our reality. The norm. And somebody says that if you can persuade a man to say that his seat is at the back, he said gladly, even when you have not asked him, he will go there and sit there, and he will feel comfortable. I think that is what is happening to women. And it starts from having to change that perception of, we cannot go beyond here. We just have this fear, and that is where it stops. Because if nothing changes in the inside, nothing can change in the outside. So, answering your question, therefore, you know, directly, I don't see that happen in the immediate time. However, it shouldn't be a project that is entirely abandoned. Something needs to start happening now. One of it is what he just said. Though later, I've always been a candidate of meritocracy. If I'm going to have it, let it be because I deserve it. But maybe it will be a good start to say, for a start, 30% of the elected offices and positions should go to women.
Appointments.
Appointments, thank you. I think that's the right word. Appointments should go to women. From there, we can build up and gradually change our narratives.
But even if you look at that, there are women who are qualified for those positions.
It's just that the structure, just like he said, currently, we're not allowed that to happen.
What I'm saying is, if we even say, okay, let's say some of these governors now look and say, okay, I need to appoint 22 commissioners. Of the 22 commissioners, at least 7 have to be women.
All right.
If they decide to do that, there are at least 7 qualified women in each of those states to occupy those positions.
That is why I'm saying that I agree with him that should be the starting point. If it becomes a policy statement, it's no longer left to, I think, I feel. It becomes something I have to do. For instance, now I come in as the governor of a state, and I know it's a policy statement, that out of my X number of commissioners, X number must
Y number
be women. Take, for instance, now, look at the entire governors in our nation now. Not a single one is a woman. Come down to the level of deputy governors. Even Lagos, that I used to be so excited about the fact that it looks like it's a tradition. But that tradition just changed in this last election.
Yeah.
So if it becomes a policy statement.
But that, again, that will now come back to looking at the political parties themselves. Is it something that they have?
We can't really do this without them.
Exactly.
We can't really do this without them.
I don't know if any governor can make any appointment without the approval
of the State
party.
House of Assembly
of his political party.
And of his political party. So that is where we can't do, before all of these things that we're talking about really has to happen, all the stakeholders have to come together. The political party, permit my use of that, even though there's nothing like that in our constitution, but they are there, the godfathers, the electorate, and all of that. Everybody needs to be involved in that process. If everybody is not involved in that process, I don't see it really coming out to be what we all desire it to be. So, but when it becomes a policy statement, it's not something I can waver and do just the way I like. Okay. I think that would be a good starting point. Okay,
so let's look at how can we begin to change this status quo?
Well, it's one, we need to put effect to our constitution. If we say we do not have...
Oh, and by the way, like you said at the beginning of this segment, it's not just about including the women. There's also the disabled. Yes. They are also excluded. So let's put them in as well.
Even the youth.
Yes. If you look at...
They're not included because they can't do the job. It's just because of their disability, nobody considers them at all. But we need to bring them all in because they're part of this country.
Absolutely. One thing which we need to do, which can immediately, force government to do something about it, is to make Chapter 2 of the Nigerian Constitution, 1999 Constitution as amended, justiciable. When you look at Chapter 2 on fundamental principles and check Clause 14, subsection 2 and 3, you will see quite clearly that while it's talking about government...
I beg your pardon, just hold that thought, Yodo. We need to just take a short break. We'll be right back.